It's going to be an unbelievable night. Careers will be defined, scores will be settled, and history will be made. The Undertaker taking on the man that ended the undefeated streak of the Undertaker, the Beast, the Conqueror, Brock Lesnar. Now in a match that started out personal and deteriorated from there. The team of Roman Reigns and his so-called brother, the Lunatic Fringe, Dean Ambrose, will step into the ring with the new face of fear, Bray Wyatt, and his prodigal son, Luke Harper. The United States Champion, John Cena, will go one-on-one with the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins, champion versus champion, and winner take all.
Don and his amazing friend. Thanks for listening, everyone. This is Don and his amazing friend. My name is Don. This is my amazing friend,
Mike here.
And which show is this, Mike? What special event are we talking about? What earth-shattering second biggest show of the year are we talking about on today's special episode?
Is this the second? I was wondering this before we started recording. Is the Royal Rumble third in the rankings of WWE pay-per-views?
So first of all, we are talking about SummerSlam.
So if you don't like wrestling, just shut us off right now.
No, this episode will convert you if you don't like wrestling. It will make you love wrestling.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
I was always under the impression, to answer your question, because we were there when this company was called the WWF. We weren't there with the company, but we were there in our pajamas as children watching it. WrestleMania is, of course, the big one. The next pay-per-view that they introduced was the Survivor Series. The next one that came after that was, I believe it was SummerSlam, because the Royal Rumble that year, that might have been the year that Royal Rumble was on the USA Network. For a long time, I always considered Survivor Series to be the second big one, only because it was the second one they introduced. We've both talked before about how we don't really care about the Survivor Series anymore, but I do love the story about why it was created. It was created just so Jim Crockett couldn't get his Starrcade show on Thanksgiving nights with the pay-per-view carriers, because Vince said, if you don't carry my event, then you don't get WrestleMania, which is your biggest moneymaker of the year. So the only reason Survivor Series exists was to put Jim Crockett out of business. But I guess SummerSlam is actually officially the second biggest show of the year. It's 6 months after WrestleMania, so it's at the midpoint of like their year, their event year. And this one, they put almost as much hype and effort into it as they would a WrestleMania. They definitely treated it more than one of the four corner pay-per-view, the other two corners of their four corners, and any of their monthly shows.
Me personally, I know when I was at my heyday of wrestling in the late 80s, 90s, back when there was only really 5 pay-per-views a year, and it was like that. The idea of a monthly pay-per-view hadn't really crossed the radar yet. But if I was ranking them, it was always you were never going to miss a WrestleMania. SummerSlam was a big event. My friends and I loved gathering for the gimmick of the Royal Rumble. It was a lot of fun to watch those matches just basically for that Royal Rumble main event. And then Survivor Series and King of the Ring were just kind of like also rans. Like if you saw them, you saw them, and if you didn't, you usually didn't miss much. I never really liked Survivor Series because that seemed to always be that one pay-per-view where like the storylines leading into it never mattered because it was just that uniqueness of like, we're going to put 4 different personalities together. They're going to make a team and the 2 teams are going to wrestle each other. And it just felt like those were never progressing storylines.
I liked the first one. I haven't watched it since the first time I saw it, but
that was the one with Bam Bam Bigelow, wasn't it? Where he was like the main guy at the end.
Yes, I think that was it. But like the concept, because WWF didn't really have like elimination matches and that kind of thing, and it was Thanksgiving night, which was cool. Like my whole family, like all the guys in my family, like we go to my grandma's house, but then everybody came back to our house, who lived right down the street from my grandma. Everybody came back to my house, all my uncles and everything, to watch Survivor Series. So it was a good event. It's a good memory anyway. But now Survivor Series, it might as well be Over the Edge or whatever, one of the monthly ones.
Right. That was the joke yesterday when we were at your place and one of your buddies was asking me about like, well, what month is Fastlane?
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, who can keep those other
Backlash?
Who can keep the names of those ones straight? So anyways, in this episode, we are going to focus on the SummerSlam 2015 matches. There were 10 matches in total. We just watched SummerSlam less than 24 hours ago, so it's still fresh in our minds, and we're going to kind of take you through that night from beginning to end with the reviews and some analysis.
Before the show started, what were your thoughts going in? Had you watched... I know you typically don't make it a habit to watch Raw every week or to kind of follow things, but you watch every monthly pay-per-view, and you watch like a lot of the catalog stuff. So what were your thoughts of SummerSlam going in this year?
My first thought was, I hope Don gets done with those burgers really quickly because I'm starving. And the burger was totally worth it. You should put the recipe for the slam burgers up on our blog so people can make their own slam burgers for next year's SummerSlam.
It's a secret recipe.
You know, there was zero hype. I was just more excited about gathering and watch. This is the first pay-per-view I've watched with people live since WrestleMania, and with that WrestleMania, that was the first one I'd watched with people live in probably 5 years or so. So I was kind of more excited about the ambience of like, I'm going to be in a room full of people who are into this, and I'll get a chance to like gauge the atmosphere and the excitement. But as far as the matches go, no, there was not like Cena Rollins, Undertaker, Lesnar being our headlining matches. There was nothing about any of those where I was like, I cannot wait to see these matches.
I was pretty excited about the whole event. I've been watching. I record Raw. I don't watch every second. Nobody can just sit and watch 3 hours of Raw every week. So I fast forward through a lot of it. But I'll watch a good maybe 65 minutes of Raw every week. I watch the stuff that matters, i.e., I skip all the Barrett stuff. And the Ryback stuff.
You're totally getting a Barrett T-shirt for Christmas this year, too.
I will wear it every day, I promise. But I was pretty excited about this event, and the way they promoted it was they really treated it like a special thing. I don't watch all of Raw every week, but I watch NXT every Wednesday night, and I watch that full hour every week, and I always watch they have their monthly kind of event thing. So they did theirs. They're starting to travel now with NXT. It's based in Orlando, and usually everything they do is in their tiny little arena in Orlando. They came to Brooklyn this time, the night before SummerSlam. They legit sold out that arena. And then they sold out the arena for Monday night, tonight as we were recording this, for Monday Night Raw. So the Barclays Center got sold out 3 nights in a row, and one of them was for their farm league. That was a great show. They had every match on that card, on the NXT card, had a lot of setup, so every match made sense as to why these people are facing each other, and they all worked their asses off, and that was a really good show. My point is, I was pretty excited for SummerSlam going in. They did everything they could to make this a special event. I guess locally they also had the fan access convention thing.
Right. Yeah.
So SummerSlam is growing and growing. They're going to make it. It will never be completely equal to WrestleMania, but they're making it as big as they can because as long as there's money in it, they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I can see that becoming the product example there, which is for some of the big pay-per-views, having the NXT show the night before, having the fan access or a Raw the day after, if you're in that big town, if you're in the Chicago, the New York, the LA, where you definitely know you can pull those numbers, good for them. I was really happy, to see that they pulled in those kind of numbers for, the Raw and for the NXT show. I thought that was a good sign of maybe there is that growing fan interest and stuff, and we'll talk about it. I mean, there are certainly areas that the WWE product overall has made some improvements, and then there's certainly some areas where they've stumbled a little bit.
You watched the NXT a little bit with me because I played it as people were arriving at my house. Was that crowd hot for NXT? That was a very rowdy crowd in that building. Those fans were so excited to see those stars who never travel, who they don't take NXT on the road, really. Yeah. That crowd was hot for those matches. And you didn't say for the ladder match where the crowd was completely insane. And
right. And you know what? I mean, and that's good. That was one of the things that we did miss out on a little bit, because in your house, the energy was flowing so much with the people in attendance. It was hard to hear the commentating, but it was also hard at times for me to gauge the audience's reaction to some of the matches. So I did mention to you that, like, this morning I had read a lot of online stuff, because what I was really looking for was just some of the people commenting about, like, when the audience was hitting their peak and who they were hot for and who wasn't really, making as big of a difference, because you lose that a little bit when you're seeing the visual and you're so engrossed in the atmosphere of your surrounding. You don't, it's hard sometimes to judge when you just see about a couple thousand people sitting in their chairs. You don't know, like, are they screaming? Are they into it? Or are they just sitting there watching it going ho-hum?
I watched it again today. That Brooklyn crowd is treating these wrestling superstars on both nights like kings, every one of them. That crowd was hot both nights for every single match. If you went just by, like, crowd reaction, there's not a dead spot on either show.
Oh, that's good then.
So we started off the show. Another thing that makes this a special event is this one has a host, and usually only WrestleMania has a host. So we get Jon Stewart as our host. I'm a big Jon Stewart fan. It's very interesting that his first post-Daily Show gig is making a pretty huge appearance at a wrestling event. He is a fan. He's a New Jersey guy. He's from this territory. I mean, we were saying last night, if he becomes a manager, he should totally manage Enzo and Cass, who are their New Jersey guys on NXT.
And I'll just say this, that I'm not letting the cat out of the bag here, but, like, he is such a fan. And that being said, when he gets his key moment where he does a little bit of a run-in, you would think that he wasn't a fan, because, like, his reactions and his body language and a couple of the choices he makes, they're horrible. And you almost think, like, I saw people like Burt Reynolds and Chuck Norris, who had no connection with or love for the WWF, make better decisions than
Pete Rose.
Yeah, than Jon Stewart made. Pete Rose was perfect back in the day. And he made a couple mistakes, but I knew he was a fan. I had read the interviews where he was a fan, and this was something that he was looking forward to. That being said, I was so into eating my Slam Burger and enjoying the snacks that I knew Mick Foley and Jon Stewart were there opening the show to the crowd. But I tuned out. I didn't care.
I was busy doing other stuff when it was on, but I watched it again. Jon Stewart and Mick Foley. Mick Foley was on the Daily Show pretty often. He and Jon Stewart go back far enough to where they have good patter, excellent stage banter. It was a good segment. It starts off the show with some good energy. You're seeing a huge TV star and then one of the biggest crossover wrestling stars out there.
Who had to put his teeth in correctly so
right.
he could talk.
Right. But it feels special when the show starts off like this. And it wasn't overly long. These things can run long. Before we started rolling, you were talking about the Ronda Rousey, Triple H, Stephanie moment from WrestleMania.
Like 15 minutes of it, basically, which was far too long.
Yeah,
right?
but this did not go long. And then we have our first match.
Sheamus versus Randy Orton as our curtain jerker. Are they grooming Sheamus first? I was kind of shocked. He's got the Money in the Bank, and he goes over Randy Orton with a clean win here, which is something we were talking about earlier, the fact of clean wins versus not. And again, it's not going to hurt Randy Orton at all. He takes 2 brogue kicks and ends up losing to Sheamus. But, like, are you getting anything from the Sheamus character and his performance?
Sheamus, when I see him, I just think this guy smells like SmackDown. It feels like I'm watching SmackDown, and nobody watches SmackDown. He's like a SmackDown level star. that said, like, he works as hard as he possibly can. It's not like he's out there slumming it, and he gives it everything he has. He does really well with the crowd. Like he was doing lately. He's been doing the "Are you entertained?" thing. Like, was it Maximus who?
Yes.
And then he's doing they chant "You look stupid." So he was picking up the microphone during the match and like taunting the crowd back. He's a pretty good heel as far as like being just a pure heel. How did you like the match itself?
It was fine. It was standard. There was I'm not a Sheamus fan. I'm not a Randy Orton fan. I've never been a Randy Orton fan, but they had a couple of their cool spots, a couple of cool moments. I think it seemed to do what it needed to do to get the crowd going and some heat and excitement. But like I said, I don't really feel like whenever this Money in the Bank gets cashed in, it's going to just be one of those like where it's null and void immediately. Like Sheamus will cash it in and just lose instantly. Like he's going to carry this suitcase around, but it's not going to be like a Seth Rollins moment where it's going to get cashed in on a major pay-per-view and Sheamus will end up winning the title because of it.
Oh, no. It's not going to turn into... Seth Rollins will probably always be that's the yardstick for how you measure the best use of the Money in the Bank, the best booking for it. The match was pretty good, but for me, it just felt like a really good Raw or SmackDown match. But it's not bad for kicking off a pay-per-view. Interesting thing about the RKO, this finishing move, whenever people talk about wrestling, whether they watch a lot of wrestling or not, they always joke about the idea of a finishing move. Like, how come when Ric Flair does the figure four leg lock, it's so much more intense than when anybody else does it? Or when we were kids, like Tito Santana had a I'm going to hit you with my forearm. But for some reason, his flying forearm knocks you out. Anybody else does it, it's no big deal. The thing about the RKO, the way Randy Orton does the RKO, and there's a reason why this has been such a popular internet meme and stuff. There's a way when Randy Orton does this move, it feels like only he can do it like that because he finds the opportunity. And there's a moment in this match, Sheamus is doing something, he's jumping over the ropes and doing something, and bam, Randy Orton hits the RKO. And it's like, oh, that's how you set up a finishing move. You make it look like you're the only one who can do it because you know how to time it better than anyone else. You know how to find the opportunity better than anyone else.
You get the idea, too, that, obviously being the son of a professional wrestler, that he's probably, when he was a little kid, he was probably thinking of his finishing move, so he's probably been practicing a move like this his entire life, whether he was going to call it the RKO or not. But he does have the timing and everything to do that perfectly. One of your friends I thought mentioned the fact that it was funny, which is that when you get on like YouTube where people have like those videos of everyone falling down and stumbling, and then they just superimpose Randy Orton showing
right,
up and
yeah.
doing the RKO to him, which that is actually a funny concept that whomever did it. Again, the match was fine for what it was. I do, with 10 matches in a 4-hour time frame, I do think that maybe the event itself was a little long. I think that sometimes there's too much of a good thing. This is certainly a match that could have been cut and we wouldn't have really lost anything. But, they're two main event level guys who have put in their time. So I guess it was good to see them get a match. And I would much rather see this, a one-on-one match, versus like we're going to just throw them into a senseless tag match or a fatal four-way or something.
Absolutely. I was actually going to ask you when we were all finished, what 2 matches would you have cut from this to make it a tight 3 hours? And
this would be one of them.
It would be one for me, but it's not their fault. It's a fine match. It's just we have a lot to get to.
Right. I agree. All right, so if we're moving on, then the second match is our WWE Tag Team Championship Fatal 4-Way match with The New Day, the Primetime Players, our current champions, Los Matadores, and the Lucha Dragons.
Yes, another tag team cluster. It seems like we have a 4-way tag team cluster every pay-per-view. Watching it last night, there were too many people at my house, and I wasn't being a very responsible adult by this time, so my memory's a little hazy from here on. But I watched it today. New Day is way over. Somebody was saying last night how like the tag team division doesn't really exist anymore. That's not true at all. New Day was huge, and they're doing this condescending heel thing now, and they're so good at it. And they came out and did a rap. They were talking about how the South was the birthplace of rap while they're standing in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn, New York. I know, that was funny.
And then they were going to start, but before they start the rap, they get out pitch pipes before they start a rap. It was a really good segment, and they all sang, they all performed before they start. New Day is on fire right now.
I don't know why they dropped the belts to the primetime players to begin with, because when they were the champs, I thought that they should have. I liked the New Day. I liked the gimmick. They know how to work the heat. They know how to be condescending. They know how to be jerks. They know how to be good heels. They fire up the crowd in the right way when the haters hate them, but it's that right kind of hate. I mean, they should be allowed to hold the belts for a while, like, a Hart Foundation kind of a run where they can keep them for 9 or 10 months. So when those belts got dropped to the primetime players, I thought that was a really bad move by the WWE.
It's always a tricky call because you have some guys who, like, New Day doesn't really need to be the champs to be compelling because they're so good, where the primetime players might need that little extra something to make them a more alluring team. But who knows? I mean, New Day ends up going over out of all this, and they walk away with the belts. Primetime players, I love their shirts. I love that they have the Primetime Wrestling logo. Anything that's like throwback to the old WWF days, I love. There was a spot where Big E splashed Darren Young on the ring apron.
Right.
These NXT guys, I don't know where this started. I'm sure there's somebody out there listening who knows exactly when this ring apron stuff started. Like Kevin Owens has become famous for doing this pop-up powerbomb to people on the ring apron. That's the hardest part of the ring. There's no soft middle on the ring apron. That's where all the support structure is on the outside of the ring. And so there was a splash. There's a great spot fest near the end of this tag team thing. The crowd was going crazy. That little Torito guy, he got planted by, I think it was Kofi Kingston.
That was good. there was a screw up with the finishing move, but it was the substitution took place almost flawlessly, and I thought that was a really good move that the partner knew there had been a slip, and he got in there right away to take the spot.
It's almost better when that happens because it's more impressive that they knew how to cover it so well. Lucha Dragons, by the way, are really, really good. They far outshine the Matadores. I don't know what, like, Lucha Dragons, they probably won't have any gold because they never talk.
Right.
I don't want to say they don't know how to speak English just because they wear lucha masks, but they never talk. But man, they're working their asses off out there. A lot of talent.
There certainly, when you have some of those teams lacking in character, like a primetime players, or lacking in the ability to speak English, I do think it's occasionally there's that the time to do a callback for a good old fashioned manager, a mouthpiece who can handle the mic for that team to bring some weight to them. Because back in the day, Neidhart and Bret Hart, they were not strong on the microphone when they were the Hart Foundation, but because they had Jimmy Hart, he took care of it, and then you'd give each of those guys a minute or two to say what they needed to say. I wouldn't be against that, seeing some managers brought back into the fold. But as it was, with these pay-per-views, since I started watching wrestling again, every pay-per-view is going to have a women's match at some point. They're going to have the tag team cluster match. They usually seem to always have the same participants, but I was pretty happy to see New Day come out of this one. That was a smart move, good for the division, good for business. To be honest, I would like to see New Day occasionally on some of these shows maybe put up their tag team belts against like a Dean Ambrose and a Roman Reigns or something, to even add a little bit more legitimacy to the title, where they're fighting against not just the typical two-man teams.
There you go, inserting Dean Ambrose into things again.
Oh, it's coming, don't worry.
This square dancer is not what everyone says he is. Through
Dolph Ziggler versus Rusev.
Good guys, but really, who still follows this feud? This is the most frustrating thing, because Rusev and Lana were like almost on top of the world at WrestleMania time. They were so strong, and he had really good matches with John Cena. And in my opinion, that's part of what brought, because John Cena was the most hated guy in the company for 12 years or something. And like, And most of that hate came from me. I take credit for most of that hate and spreading that all over the world. And he's won me over, and a lot of it was because of those matches with Rusev and then winning the title from him and then the open challenge on Raw every week after. But this thing, Ziggler versus Rusev, nobody wins here because everybody just looks really bad. It's been drawn out for too long.
But, I mean, again, they have to have storylines for people, and so some work, some don't. I didn't hate the match at all. There's the stuff. I always enjoy Lana. I get the fact that some of this got thrown around a little bit when Rusev got his injury and was gone for a couple of weeks there. It wasn't the low point of the night.
No. It's just one of those things where when, like, oh, they're still doing this, and oh, believe me, big Lana fan. If you follow my Twitter feed, I love Lana. Although last night she looked like she was on her way to a White Lion concert. I didn't understand the acid wash.
Come on, that was so funny because that's like that '80s joke of like anytime like the Russians would be able to get over here to America, it was all about, hey, where's your blue jeans and cowboy hat, Yankee? And the fact that she comes out, she's trying to be like, quote unquote, Americanized, so that's her version of it, is like the acid wash G.
Well, that's how Ziggler always dresses. So she's coming out matching him now instead of doing like the Lana look. But one of the things that actually works about this feud is how Summer Rae has been like the Lana clone. Had they been dressing her like Lana and stuff. So now Lana comes out and they're not like, she doesn't even have her clone anymore. I don't know.
They'll do this. They're going to do the swerve. Dolph Ziggler is probably only a month or two away from a nut shot from Lana, where she turns on him immediately and goes right back to Rusev.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
I want to see it. I'm ready.
Testing the waters. She'll end up there in due time.
I have a couple of notes here. So this ends in a double countout.
Yes, which we had not seen in forever.
A double countout. We couldn't hear it at my house last night. I watched it this morning. The crowd has been hot. I don't know, it was probably the same people who were at NXT the night before, but the crowd has been hot and loving this product 2 nights in a row, loving every single thing. The crowd booed so heavily and I know, it's at the idea of a double count out. Like, really?
Right.
And it's number one, they don't want to see a double count out. And number two, just end this. We thought this was going to end this with a double count out. You're not going to end this story. And I was able to listen to the commentary today, and there's an interesting thing happening right now where the McMahons are really trying to capitalize on the popularity of Ronda Rousey, Serena Williams, and her big tennis victory this year. I don't follow tennis. And the women's soccer team. And this is where all this Divas Revolution came from, to really elevate this division. And the women's matches have gotten a lot stronger, a lot more athletic. The NXT women's division was ready for it, so they had the players. When you have Lana and Summer Rae out there doing their thing, Jerry Lawler is still 1998 Jerry Lawler making his sexist pig comments. And I just think it's really dated right now, especially like in their Diva Revolution, let's really highlight the profile of the women era, and then you still have Jerry Lawler out there talking about how hot they are.
He's too old to change his routine. He's just set in his ways. That's how it's going to be.
No, he's too old to wear tap-out clothing and catcall 25-year-old women. He's too old for those things. He's not too old to change.
This could easily still be the blow-off match between them. Like I said, I mean, Lana and Rusev will have their moment at some point, but I don't necessarily know if we need to see any more Rusev, Dolph Ziggler. But I've never been overly excited, to be honest, for anything that Dolph Ziggler's done. And I've never been it's a good gimmick, but I've never been overly excited for any Rusev matches either. They have a good gimmick with him and Lana together. They're both stronger when they're together, and they'll get back. By the time of the Royal Rumble, they'll be back together.
I would hope so, because I know they had big plans for Lana, and I know that she's just been getting pushed down the card. Every week, like when she turned on Rusev, and then for the weeks that she would come out after, it would be funny to watch how, like, oh, they're having her slowly lose her accent, like every time. So she'll be that one immigrant who lost their accent in like 3 months. But yeah, they need to get her back with Rusev. This feud is dead in the water, and a double countout does not solve the problem.
So that gets us to our fourth match. And our fourth match is our big celebrity match of the night, which is Stardust and King Barrett versus Neville and...
My name is Oliver Queen. For 5 years, I was stranded on an island with only one goal. Survive.
Oliver Queen is alive.
Now I will fulfill my father's dying wish.
Make it home. Right my wrongs.
To use the list of names he left me and bring down those who are poisoning my city. To do this, I must become someone else. I must become something else.
CW Arrow TV star Stephen Amell.
How excited are you for Stephen Amell to be on WWE? For the purpose of this show, we talk about Arrow on almost every episode. Like Arrow's coming back on like 6 weeks or something. It comes back on. The shows we record during that time, we're going to talk about Arrow again. We always talk about Arrow in the Flash. We love Stephen Amell as a celebrity. He's one of the coolest celebrities out there, and he did raise over $100,000 by participating in this match for. Oh, Lord, I forgot the name of the charity.
I think his big charity is Fuck Cancer, which I believe.
Yeah, this one wasn't Fuck Cancer, though. It was It was like a shelter. It was like an Emily's House kind of.
Okay.
Something like that. But they had, I think it's Mondo, who does the cool movie posters.
Okay.
I think did the Stardust Arrow logo, and they sold jerseys.
Their little comic book intro that they did was kind of neat. I mean, that took some time to put that together. I was happy to see Stephen Amell. I know he is a fan. He is a WWE fan, and we've talked about that on the podcast before. Two things caught me off guard, though, and I you'd think I'd be prepared for this now. On Arrow, when you see Stephen Amell, the guy's ripped. He's rock solid. He looks really huge. Then when he's standing in a WWE ring with someone like King Barrett or Stardust, he does not look big. He looks very small in comparison, and that's that shocking moment of, like, I've met Mick Foley, and I've met Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels is huge. I mean, like, when the guy shook my hand, I couldn't believe how big his hand was. And in a WWE ring, Shawn Michaels looks like the everyman, the average Joe, and you don't realize how big some of these guys actually are. I was shocked at how small Stephen Amell looked, and I was also shocked at the outfit choice that he ended up going with for the match.
Are you talking about you didn't expect him to wear a green hood, or you didn't expect him to wear just everyday shorts?
It was just like black shorts with no shirt at all. I was just kind of stunned, and I don't know if maybe they had plans to do something else, and either the Warner Brothers or DC people said absolutely not. Stardust looks more super villainy, and Stephen Amell just looks like a guy in black shorts, and it wasn't as exciting. And again, if you're not a fan of Arrow or you don't follow Stephen Amell, you know, in the audience, if he looked somewhat more like the part, it's easier to get on board with him.
Let's talk about the aesthetics for a minute. You mentioned the video package, how it was done like a Roy Lichtenstein, like comic book panels with the BAMs and POWs and like the four color thing. The aesthetics of this match are really, really fun. And you can do this, these days you can do this for one match. If you have too many of these things, then it feels like crappy 1994, 1995 WWF where everybody has a costume and everybody's a character. So you get your comic book panel intro, and then you get your guys coming out. There's a guy wearing a crown. There's Neville, who comes out wearing his purple cape. There's Stardust, who has his great like David Bowie / supervillain look. The weakest looking person to come out is the guy who actually plays a superhero on TV is Stephen Amell. So he should look at least as good as the others. So, yeah, I was a little bit thrown off by kind of, especially because he made a video of, like, I'm packing for SummerSlam, and it showed him packing his Arrow stuff.
I wonder if Legal got in there and said whatever he was planning on wearing, Legal on one end or another said, you're not wearing that.
Well, that could have been. That's a really good theory. But I wonder, like, how soon, though? Like, immediately? And they're like, someone run and grab me some shorts. Get my shorts out of my bag. Either way, let's talk about the actual match. The aesthetics are really fun. Amell gets the tag way earlier than I would have predicted. I thought they were going to hold off and do the hot tag. Instead, they do a pretty ballsy thing where Stardust gets tagged in and says, I want him. So Neville, they don't hesitate. Neville just goes over and tags him, and he steps in. I thought that was pretty cool.
I like that. I like the fact that when Amell is the match does pretty much everything right considering what you're dealing with, because the WWE protects their talent. Stephen Amell comes off looking pretty well at the same time, and he's the fan. He gets his moment. So I was surprised by the fast tag. I was surprised that Amell was in there taking the beating that he was taking, and he's not a professional wrestler. He can't sell everything as well as it needs to be sold, but he was in there on the receiving end a lot longer than I would have expected.
I disagree with you on his selling. I actually think you really see his acting chops. I think he sells just as good, if not better, than a lot of the wrestlers. It could come across better on TV, maybe in the arena, since he's like an actor, so what he does is more nuanced than a pro wrestler, because they have to entertain people who are sitting 100 yards away up at the top of the arena, so they have like big exaggerated movements. But I thought, like, you notice his facial expressions and just the way he's staring down Stardust and stuff. I'm like, this guy's good. Like, there's real acting here compared to, wrestlers are generally pretty good actors, but they're never good when they're on, like, a guest spot on a TV show or something. They're
Right.
never good when they're around real actors. So here you have a real actor doing their thing, and I was impressed. Let's count the moves. He does a boot to the chest. When he's getting beat in the corner, and a big boot, like all the way up to the chest,
Yep.
chest height boot, hip toss,
Yep.
an insuguri. He does the plancha thing off, like at the end of the match.
I counted about 4 different things. The one thing I did pay attention to, though, especially when he was taking some of his beatings, was he knew where to put his hands. So when Stardust or King Barrett were delivering some of the damage to him, Amell had his hands all in the proper places to help the other wrestler deliver the moves that they needed to deliver to him, and he did. He got his one big jump where he jumped down onto Stardust and Barrett, and that's a ballsy move for anyone who's not a professional wrestler to stand on a turnbuckle and then leap, where you're putting your faith in those guys to catch you and whatnot. And it was fine. It was good. They make the really smart move, though, of also not letting Stephen Amell win the match.
He doesn't get the pin. Neville's going to jump over the top rope onto the 2 guys who are on the floor. And Stephen Amell says, no, I want this, because he's going to get Stardust. So he tags him. So Amell climbs to the top. Yeah. And then he jumps down and knocks both guys out. There is a thing. Have you ever had an acting class? Like in college, did you ever take acting? I took like acting 101 or whatever. And one of the first thing they do on the first day, like of every acting class, is they make you do a trust fall, where you fall backwards and you have to count on the person to catch you. So wrestlers have to do trust falls all the time. But as an actor, you don't do a trust fall when you're 12 feet up in the air, standing on something, falling, hoping 2 guys who aren't in your business are going to catch you and make you look good. And they did their job. I'll give props to Barrett for that one.
And you know what? I definitely get the idea that, Stardust is probably a fan of Amell, and you get the idea that they're probably fairly cordial with each other in real life, too, and maybe that was how this whole thing got set up, too. But you could tell that, they were looking out for Amell at every chance they got. And
Yep.
he did a good job. He did not embarrass himself at all. Anytime you deal with somebody who's not a wrestler getting into the ring, it can be awkward. He was fine. I'd be hard-pressed to name another celebrity who showed up for any kind of a match and did a better job than Amell did.
No, like I just watched the Bam Bam Bigelow Lawrence Taylor thing because I read that book about WWF in 1995. So I've been watching those. Oh, it's so hard to watch those pay-per-views. And, Lawrence Taylor was like the best athlete in the world in 1995, and his match wasn't very good, and he did train for it pretty hard.
He trained for it really hard. I remember that one benefited, though, because of the location where they were and who he was, and that the crowd was hot. The crowd got them through that. But, again, when you think about it, it was LT and Bam Bam Bigelow, so you don't really have, like, even the big, hot, capable worker with LT at the same time. I did think that Barrett and Stardust did a decent job getting us through this match here. That being said, Neville is another one of those guys. He's got a ton of talent, but it's only going to get him so far. He doesn't have a name, a personality, or anything else that's going to get him to that next level. And I get nervous every time he does some of his like death-defying moves, because that's all he's got. The first time he screws up one of his big spiral jump moves and either hurts himself really bad or hurts the other guy, when that's off the table, he doesn't have a whole lot else to fall back on. They probably need to do some work with Neville, or he's just going to be a really flashy version of like a leaping Lanny Poffo for the WWE.
He's pretty over. That crowd is into him, but
you said though they were basically into everything here, and he's not. This guy's not going anywhere. He's not climbing the ladder in the corporation.
At the way they're using him right now, I agree with you, but he's definitely over. Like he's the kind of guy, because of his he does have a look, and because of his ring style, they could just merchandise the hell out of him. Because that's the guy, like, you could have Neville toys and stuff, and little kids playing with Neville toys, having them twist and fly around in the air and doing Red Arrow and stuff like that, or make T-shirts that look like comic book panels and stuff. You can merchandise the hell out of Neville, and he'll be a guy who just sort of kicks back and like, yeah, I can do my mid-card thing forever and get my merchandising, and I'm good.
If we lined up 1,000 kids right now and asked any of them who Neville was, nobody would know.
If you lined up 1,000 kids who watch wrestling, all of them know.
Real, we're gonna have to disagree on that one. I don't.
You don't think the kids who are watching wrestling are into Neville? There was a kid with us last night who was into Neville, who was in my house.
I don't know about that. It was right around this point, I think, that kid was also ready to go for the night too.
Well, he saw what he wanted to see.
I'm not. I've noticed this about you. You are very you pick and choose. Like back in the day, when Hurricane Helms was in the WWE, he was my favorite wrestler. So if you came to my house and watched any Raw or any pay-per-views, you would think that Hurricane was like the greatest guy ever because of my love for Hurricane. But he was low on almost to the bottom of that ranking. You're not going to convince me here because of your affinity for Neville. You're not going to convince me that this guy is like that over. I'm not seeing it. I don't buy it.
I'm not sitting here saying Neville's my favorite wrestler.
No, but you're saying how over he is, and I don't buy it.
Neville is over. He has the good entrance, and they bailed on his cool. He had the cooler entrance where they used to puff out his cape, and he looked like a dome, and there was like the fake smoke stuff coming out of it, and for some reason they don't do that anymore. But Neville is over, and they cherish that demographic of young kids who are like, buy me this, Dad, buy me this, and Neville is their guy for that. He'll always have a place in the company for that reason. He definitely has appeal for young fans.
Okay, so I'm taking your word for it.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
So that gets us to our fifth match on the card, and our fifth match is our Intercontinental Championship triple threat match with our Intercontinental Champion Ryback versus Big Show and The Miz.
How many people do you think watched the pay-per-view? They get like the network has like 300,000 subscribers, something like that. So you figure you have
That's all they have currently? I thought they were over 1 million subscribers.
Oh, yeah, they did. I heard they lied about like their miles. Let's say 1 million.
Okay.
So let's say they have 1 million subscribers, and then, like events, like you've had people over your house to watch things. I had people, so maybe 2 million people watched it last night plus 15,000. So it's 2,015,000 people or so watched it. And this is a triple threat match? No, this is a 2,015,000 threat match. There is no reason why anybody should have to sit and endure this match. Anything with Ryback and Big Show out there, forget it. I skipped it last night. I skipped it today when I rewatched the show. I thought
that they used to be honest, I actually thought that they used The Miz, who I do like. I like The Miz quite a bit. I thought that they used him well in this match, but I don't know what the company's thinking putting the Intercontinental Championship on Ryback. He's not over. With me, for sure. He has the absolute dumbest catchphrase that's feed me more. It's just stupid. Maybe it gets over more if he's a heel, but like you had Daniel Bryan as the champion, and I understand why Daniel Bryan has to drop that belt for the health reasons, but like this was a mistake to put what's quote unquote supposed to be your second most valued title. You put it on Ryback, and then he's going to feud with the Big Show. you're talking about matches that could have been cut. This was definitely a cut, and you should never say that about an Intercontinental Championship match.
I gave the match some time last night. It comes on like, okay, I'm going to watch this. And you have three guys who, one of the guys is a champion. One of the Miz has held several titles, and Big Show has held several titles. So you have three guys who are very well decorated who are in this match. And it gets started, and then I just start thinking, why do they call them the Mario Brothers? Because Mario is his first name? Or maybe Mario is his last name, so his name is Mario, and his brother's name is Luigi Mario.
I think I think you're right.
But why do they actually call them the Mario Brothers? Or is Mario actually his last name, and he's just like one of those cool guys who only goes by his last name?
Like Neville.
Right. This is what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking anything about this match.
And I get when you see where the other matches end up going, I understand it. They want to face champion here for this belt, but Ryback is the wrong decision. They used the Miz appropriately in the match where he's frantically going for the pin after the two big guys are doing damage to each other. The best move this match could have done is to let the Miz win the belt and to sneak out with it. But again, then you have another heel champion there. But nothing's going anywhere with Ryback as your champion. I mean, as much as I was kind of downplaying Neville's popularity, this Ryback is the example of the company man that they want to tell you Ryback is a superstar and nobody cares about this guy. Nobody cares. But it's that Vince McMahon mentality of he's got the look and we're going to make him a superstar.
Nobody cares about him. The crowd, and I talked about this thing had a hot crowd. The crowd was not really into this match, and I miss the Intercontinental title. Because when we were kids, those were the best matches. Your Tito Santana, Greg the Hammer Valentine, that was an awesome feud when I first started watching wrestling. And then Macho Man, and then Steamboat. Like, that was always the workers' title.
And it was the title that you started to see those guys when your Shawn Michaels and your Bret Harts had that champion. You knew that they were right there. They were ready to cross over to that upper level tier, and it was coming, and they were working their way towards it. And when you had someone like Shawn Michaels with that Intercontinental Championship, and he had a long run with it, or the Macho Man had a long run with it, and the title had value, and there was a point where you wanted to see it change hands because it meant something. They cannot get this belt off of Ryback fast enough.
No, and the people at our house last night were talking about who's a worse Intercontinental Champion, the Honky Tonk Man or Ryback. It's clearly Ryback.
Oh, 100%.
We hated Honky Tonk Man because we hated the character, because it was fun to hate the character, and you'd buy a ticket to see him hopefully lose. Ryback, you just hate him because he's boring. You resent him being out there. And the Big Show just makes me sad because he just doesn't look like he can handle too many more matches. He always looks rough. I'm sure he looks like his body's in constant pain.
He probably is.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, he's put in his time with the company. Now they want to give him as much as he can do.
Remember right after I'm sorry to cut you off. Remember right after WrestleMania when Big Show was coming out and they had his statue, the Andre the Giant statue from when he won that Battle Royal, and he would stand next to the statue? They should have kept that up with Big Show. I don't know why they dropped it. Well, I guess it's hard to lug around that giant statue. But they have some good ideas, and then they stray from them. I agree with you. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about Ryback. Just I hope he drops this belt sooner than not. But I don't think he's going to, simply unless he's going to drop it to somebody who has a very short reign, because when we get into it and talk, Rollins isn't going anywhere as the champion, and the company just does not like to have two heel champions or two face champions at the same time competing against each other. So unfortunately, I think we're going to be stuck with Ryback for a while. If we ever get a chance to get the WWE merchandise statistics, I know that Neville is outselling Ryback merchandise by leaps and bounds, so I will believe you on that front. Oh no, they have a really cool Ryback where you pull a string and it says "Feed me more" over and over and over again, and it stomps its foot. And you say "Feed me more" along with it.
Do they have awesome. I haven't been to their merchandise site in a while, but do they have the chef apron, the Ryback chef apron, "Feed me more," or like the salt shaker, like where you're shaking it, it's like "Feed me me more.
They have all those things. No, I don't. I never look at their merch site. And then we go into Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper versus Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns, trying to recapture the former glory of the Shield and the family from a couple years ago.
Yeah. I read a lot of stuff, and it was pretty clear that Ambrose is way over with the crowd, and the crowd loves Ambrose. And the one thing we were watching this last night that I had to read is there was the big chant going on at one point during the match, and I couldn't figure out what the fans were chanting. Did you caught that then today, what they were chanting at one point?
I almost never know what the chant is unless it's like super obvious.
Roman sleeping at the one key point where he was like out of the match for far too long, and they were all just mocking the fact that it's like, come on, why is this guy still laid out on the, outside of the match? And that was it. I was reading about that. It was like some people who were there were like, oh my God, the Roman sleeping chant was hilarious because so many people were like laughing. It was like ridiculous how long he was sidelined.
I wonder if that's just going to catch on, and they're going to say Roman sleeping no matter what, because the fans kind of love to hate on Roman Reigns. It doesn't. I know that Dean Ambrose is ridiculously popular. I hate when Dean Ambrose bounces off of a stiff object and twirls around, and he does something really clumsy, and Michael Cole disguises it as he has an unorthodox style. Like, no, he's just kind of a klutz, and he's inventing things that don't make sense. You don't create momentum by twirling around like a tornado, and you don't actually ricochet off of a post.
But you know what?
It has no elasticity.
I don't mind. I do. Well, I mean, if you're going to say that, then like, you can't ricochet off the ropes in the WWE ring either. Those things are not elastic.
No, but it's been precedent that we think the ropes are elastic. They wouldn't be, like, the Undertaker wouldn't be able to walk across the rope if it was actually elastic. But it's been sold for 60 years that you can bounce off the ropes.
I like Ambrose a lot. Ambrose is, put the Intercontinental title on him and get it off Ryback. I mean, that's a good move right there. Or if you're going to keep Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose together, let them fight New Day for a little bit, for a tag team title shot or something that doesn't necessarily have to come to fruition. But Ambrose is over. Bray Wyatt has got nothing to worry about. Bray Wyatt could never win another match and job for the rest of his career, and he's still going to be super over because he's got cool moves, he's got great talent, he's got that awesome intro. He's got an incredible look. He's great. There's two key things we're going to take away from this. The first one is that the WWE is, still going to try and push this Roman Reigns thing on us. But in this match with these four people, Roman Reigns is the third most popular person in the ring. Yeah,
that's absolutely true. The match starts off really hot. Right toward the top of the match, there's action on the outside of the ring. Ambrose does this cool thing where he runs across 3 announce tables.
And they all stayed together.
They all stayed together. Yeah, that's a great spot. My favorite moment of this match is something I've never seen before. Bray Wyatt has Ambrose up in a vertical suplex position. He has him up, and you figure he's either going to fall forward, which they rarely do, or fall back, which they've been doing since 1960. Instead, while he has him in suplex position, throws him across the ring. He just throws him. Now, there is no... I mean, Ambrose can push off a little bit, but that's all Bray Wyatt. That's pure strength, throwing a 230-pound man across... Like, he got some air, too. Like, he has him on his shoulders and just throws him across the ring.
Yeah, it was a great spot.
Then Ambrose gets the tag to Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns does this really horrible kind of bro crap where he's, like, drinking out of his thumb and pointing his finger in the air. I don't know what that was.
That's the Hawaiian bra.
But you don't drink out of it.
Well, no, but I think that that's their joke of he's doing it, but then he's tweaking it for the Dean Ambrose being the everyman, beer drinking good guy.
It just doesn't work. It looks like Roman Reigns trying to be cool is what it looks like.
But I mean, there's still the company is lost with him. Just like with Ryback, they want Roman Reigns to be the next Rock, and it's not going to happen. And I mean, it's so evident when he's standing there next to Dean Ambrose, because Ambrose has that legitimate affection from the fans, and they love the guy. And the WWE is forcing Reigns, and the fans are not embracing him to that level.
They need to just have Roman Reigns work and work and work and work like really hard, really good matches. He had a TV match a month ago or so against Sheamus, 2 guys I don't really care about, but I was like, wow, these guys are busting their asses out here. And I thought, like, that's what finally won me over with Cena. Was his open challenges were the best matches of Raw every week. They could do the same thing with Roman Reigns, and he could go somewhere. Ryback's never going to do it.
Right.
Roman Reigns could do it if they book him right. Roman Reigns, he gets the tag, and the crowd, I don't know what's going on here because I'm not there to hear it, but the whole crowd, as soon as he gets a tag, it sounds like boo, but it might be they're doing his, because he does the ooh before he does his, that last thing that he does, but it really felt like a boo.
All I know from what I had read on sites from people who claimed to have been there was the Ambrose heat was all legitimate. The fans loved him. And then when it was the tag for Roman, it all trailed off and it dropped off. So it wasn't like, and then we were oohing. It was more like, and then all the enthusiasm dropped the minute Roman was going to get his moment, you know.
Because he's throwing those ridiculous Superman punches and stuff, and the crowd it sounds like boo. But again, and then when he does his calling out to the, like, his moose call or whatever, so I don't know if they're doing his sound or if they're actually booing him. But I mean, this is a very audible crowd through both shows.
Here, I'm going to fix this problem immediately. In 2 seconds, I'm going to solve the problem of Roman Reigns, and we're going to do it with Ryback, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose. So on a pay-per-view, Roman Reigns as our face gets to battle Ryback for the Intercontinental Championship, face versus face for the title. They have the match. Roman Reigns wins. Dean Ambrose comes out to congratulate Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns immediately turns on Dean Ambrose and viciously beats him up. You've got that storyline, and you make Roman Reigns a heel Intercontinental Champion. You build up tons of heat on him for a year or two, and then eventually he can transition into being somebody that the fans like. Because right now he has that Rocky Maivia smell on him, and what he needs is a Rock smell, and that's where The Rock became popular as a bad guy.
Oh, so you're saying that Reigns needs to be interesting.
Right.
He needs to have dimension.
He needs something. You always go to his look, his outfit.
I don't like that he still dresses like a merc, but he's just not interesting.
This would make him interesting. I'm telling you, if they play that angle up, that classic angle of, and you could even, I mean, if he's got the Intercontinental Championship, it legitimizes him quicker, but you could certainly do it with, if Ambrose and Roman Reigns as a team chase New Day for the title, and then there could be that pivotal screw-up moment or whatever where Ambrose, you know, gets beat up on by Reigns. The fans are never going to turn on Ambrose at this point in his career, but they'll turn on Reigns on the drop of a dime, and you use that and you milk that heat and you turn him heel for a time to just brainwash everybody into forgetting how much they hated being force-fed the guy.
I like the idea. This is how you screw up a Reigns heel turn, and this is what they would be the most likely to do. You make him a part of the Authority.
Yeah.
Then everyone's like, oh...
Well,
just do it the right way.
If you did that angle where he turns on Ambrose and he becomes Seth Rollins' bodyguard, the Diesel to Rollins, Shawn Michaels as it is, that's fine too. He can still be a wrestling bodyguard and you have him around that way. They need to. He's not at this point a face that the fans want. Is a big face, so you got to do something with them.
No. Fans are craving for him to be interesting because like they want to support him. Like when he does a good match, when he worked like the Sheamus match, there is people are. It's not like it's not a Ryback thing where it's like get off my TV. It is do something with him. Like we'll be on board, but you got to do something more than this. You can't just put him out here and say like him.
Yeah, but see, it's that.
You got to make him interesting.
But it's that very tenacious support of, I don't think the smart fans, the knowing fans, do not want to cheer him too much because they're afraid that the minute they cheer him too much, the WWE goes, here we go, get the title on Roman Reigns because now the fans are cheering for him. And I think those people in the know realize the minute we start cheering too much, they're going to jam. He's going to win the next Royal Rumble and he'll be right there for the title again. And they don't want that. They do not want that. It's that, again, that Diesel era all over again where like people cheered when Diesel beat up Shawn Michaels. That didn't mean they wanted to turn Diesel into the next Hulk Hogan. They were just glad when he beat up on Shawn Michaels.
Poor Roman Reigns. Really, there were a lot of stories around WrestleMania time. There were a lot of stories in mainstream news outlets written about like how this guy doesn't even kind of want to be in the, like, doesn't feel that he's ready to be in the position that he's in, and the fans know it and everybody knows it, but he's sort of thrown out there, and now he's kind of tarnished as the guy who headlined a WrestleMania that nobody wanted him to headline, and then they had to throw his old buddy out there to save that match, to make that match compelling. And I don't, the thing is, like, what will save him is that nobody really takes it out on Reigns. People don't really, I mean, they were booing him last night maybe, but they don't really take it out on him in the way that they take it out on someone who is just completely unworthy of being on TV.
Right, but I mean, and we'll talk about this in a second with Cena. The company did this with Cena all those years ago, and he cannot shake that hatred from the fans who, you know, we were force-fed John Cena over and over and over, and the fans are still angry about that. They're still bitter, and even though he has won people over, I think he's 100% for winning people over in this room right now. Even though he has won people over, there's still that huge, you know, it's, like we talked about the WrestleMania, it was embarrassing when people were cheering Rusev over Cena. If they don't understand that they have to fix Roman Reigns now, he'll never shake this. It'll haunt him the rest of his career, where he's not going to be that next Rock where he could be heel or good guy and people accept him either way. He'll just be the guy who, Roman sucks, Roman's cool, Roman sucks, Roman's cool. They'll just be those fans who are like, screw this guy, I hate him because the McMahons tried to force me to like him.
Let's move on. Rollins, Cena. This was a match I was very excited about.
Title for title.
Title for title. Last night before we started watching the show, I said one of the things that about this particular card that I find that is really exciting to me is that I can't predict the outcome of any of these matches. I mean, I don't really care to predict the outcome of Sheamus and Randy Orton, but the big match, like, usually we're pretty good about our predictions. Like, we posted on our blog our predictions when we did Mania, and we had a very high percentage. These matches, the big matches on this show, there was no way to predict what was going to happen, except we knew, like, the Stephen Amell team was going to go over. We were just hoping he wouldn't get the pin. Rollins and Cena, there's no way to predict how they're going to book this.
But didn't we, when we were talking before this started, didn't we both kind of lean towards some form of screw job? Neither of us said
we didn't want it, but we were afraid. Yeah,
neither of us thought it was going to end with a 1-2-3 clean in the ring. We thought there would be some kind of chicanery, and based on its placement on the card, when it happened as quickly as it did, you knew then this isn't a Cena clean win kind of a night, because if it was, he's ending the show proper.
John Cena comes out, does his John Cena thing. He's got a new shirt on. He wasn't wearing his belt T-shirt, which made me think, like, oh, he's going to... We were saying, like, oh, he's probably going to lose the title tonight because he's not wearing his Buy My T-shirt that already has the U.S. title.
He's going orange,
screen printed on it. He's got a new shirt. He's got a new motif. Like, oh, he's not the champ is here anymore with his shirt. So that was kind of a harbinger for how this match is going to end up. What do you think about? I keep wanting to say Henry. As I look at my notes, it just says Rollins. I keep wanting to say Henry
Rollins. That'd be awesome.
What do you think of Seth Rollins decked out in head-to-toe white?
There was the joke online, I think it was on the Wrestling Observer website, one of the people wrote in and they said, Rollins comes out in all white, and he started off looking like a white Power Ranger, but then when he took his shirt off, he just looked like the Bee Gees circa 1970, and I just thought that was like two great references.
Everybody in my living room last night was like, Power Ranger. Like, everybody said Power Ranger when he came out. Then when he took his shirt off, he looked to me like from the distance like vintage Ricky Steamboat with like the long white tights, and he has that same tan.
This is good. I hope he sticks with the white because it gets him away from that Shield. Like Dean Ambrose broke away from the Shield gimmick, but Rollins wearing the black, he still looked a little too similar to Roman Reigns. And I like a heel champ who's wearing the anti-visual colors of the white.
Like Kurt Angle wearing red, white, and blue and being
absolutely.
The best heel, one of the best heels ever. Yes. Rollins is a savage beast in this match against Cena, and that's a credit to both men because Rollins can he's doing some very high risk, high spots in this match, and it's because he knows that Cena's going to have his back on these. He does the really cool spot where he does it's a set of 3. He goes twice. He goes through the ropes when they jump between the top 2 ropes to the outside of the ring. Then he goes for number 3, and you think for sure Cena's going to get him this time. Instead, Rollins goes over the top rope and lands on him and nails him again. Rollins, we were talking about the Tree of Woe, how they never do the Tree of Woe position anymore. Cena gets himself in the Tree of Woe, and Rollins does the crazy thing where he climbs to the top rope and does the stomp, both feet in Cena's chest on his way down. And then he looks at him and does the "you can't see me" thing, so he mocks him. Rollins is insane in this match. He does a frog splash where it looks like he goes 25 feet up in the air, and they even did a replay. Like, look at the height he gets. Like, how is he jumping? That was just from the ring apron, I think. Pulled himself over.
This is like a match of the night quality stuff here. And
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Rollins does there's the key point where like Cena does the hoist move where he's got Rollins and he shows how strong he is when he hoists him up into the position. And then Rollins answers back later in the match and he does that same callback where like, I can do this too.
Yes.
The question I have is, and I missed most of the Cena era. John Cena is not Shawn Michaels' talent, but he's very talented. The thing I am noticing, though, since I have started watching the WWE Network is John Cena is very capable of raising the talent of whomever he is in the ring with to another level. And I mean, I have nothing but high praise for Seth Rollins, but it was very evident with his matches with Kevin Owens. And it was evident even with his feud with Rusev. He can really elevate people. And I mean, the match that he and Rollins pulled off, I mentioned this to you earlier. So you have 11 people in your house yesterday, and there was a lot of chit chat, catching up, getting food, mingling around. This was the unifying match. When this match hit and it got going, 11 people were in chairs focused on this match.
And once again, the crowd in the arena is on fire for this match too. And how could you not be? This is a stellar performance from both men. It's just so inventive. You have a guy like Cena who's, like you said, he's not a Shawn Michaels, but Cena's thing is he's like the great bass player in a band. He's rock solid. You can count on him, and then you can do all the pretty stuff around him. But you can't do that stuff if you don't have that solid pillar in the middle, and that's what John Cena is bringing to these matches. There is like this crazy top rope suplex, roll through, pin attempt. I mean, Rollins is doing the same kind of twisty corkscrew things that we were talking about, like Neville doing, not quite at a Neville level, but doing like very high risk stuff. The only kind of real botch, and it was a pretty ugly one, was the springboard stunner.
Right.
And that was pretty gross. Then we have the worst fallacy that could ever be committed in a wrestling match. We have
Ref bump.
a ref bump.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
On a pay-per-view in 2015, we have a ref bump.
And this delivered the hugest groan from everyone in attendance at your party. It was like painful to watch.
Everybody at my house and everybody in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, everybody was like, oh.
Because it's a horrible ref bump. It wasn't. You and I had talked earlier about like there are times where a ref bump can look really strong, like it's legitimate. Like when a ref gets hit, he's not one of these superhuman wrestlers. He's gonna get hurt. This was as weak as they come, and when the ref rolls out of the ring, it's just pathetic. Because you're like, that guy is. We just watched these two guys deliver all this punishment to each other, but this ref takes one little hit and he's suddenly out.
He's out for a long time. He's out and he completely rolls out of the ring. He was in so much pain he can't even be in the ring. He rolls out of the ring. So John Cena does the good guy thing where he goes over and checks on the ref and he yells to somebody to get the doctor to come check on him. And then he turns around and Seth Rollins gets him with the double knees to the nose. The reason they're having this match, they go for the nose shot. Nice spot, nice callback, good dick heel move by Seth Rollins to go for the nose again. And then we have an example of how not to use a celebrity in a wrestling match.
Jon Stewart runs into the ring, and again, for somebody who has so much passion and love for the industry, he hits the ring, and then he plays his hand immediately because he's got a chair, and instead of like charging straight on for Rollins, he like does these weird pauses where he starts looking at Cena and like he's almost going to go, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, if that's your angle, you've tipped your hand immediately to everybody.
Why would you even tease?
It was horrible.
A Cena thing. And it would have been one thing if he had like a run-in earlier in the night with Cena or a weird thing, or bumped into him. And because Jon Stewart can do kind of the clumsy Woody Allen-y kind of thing where he would have been walking by with a drink and bumped into John Cena and be like, oh, I'm sorry. And or something to set up what is this very strange.
You know what? If that's what they wanted to do, again, Cena doesn't need the protection. So if Cena loses clean to Rollins, it's not hurting his fan base one bit. He sells just as much merchandise. Or if Rollins loses, he'll be fine. If that was the angle they wanted to go with the ref bump, they could have brought in Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart could have ran down sooner, and they could have had something happen with Stewart, the chair, and the ref at a key moment where the ref gets knocked out at that point, and then you follow it up with this. There's a lot of other angles they could have done. This brought back the worst memories of that early 2000 era of the WWE, where on a pay-per-view, you watched a match, but you waited for the ref bump to let you know when the match was getting ready to wind up, and it was horrible. Furthermore, it robbed Rollins and Cena, because if this match ends cleanly, this is what people are talking about for a long time, because this is a stellar match.
If this match ends cleanly, it's a candidate for everybody's match of the year list that they're going to post on social media. Because it's SummerSlam, it has a huge, I don't know if they call them buy rates anymore, but it has that luster to it. No, it instead leaves us with a painful memory because it was like, oh, you had a good thing going and you ruined it.
They had a great thing going.
Yes, yeah.
I love this match, but that ending left a really sour taste in my mouth, and again, it killed the momentum. Even at your party, it killed the momentum where everyone was so into it, and then it was just so groan-inducing to see what was going to happen. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where they're going to go with this, with Rollins having both belts. To do it justice, the next pay-per-view or one down the road, they need the rematch with a good ending. Because these guys, Cena has won me over. I do like John Cena a lot. I like his attitude, and I like his ring ethic. I like Rollins as the champ, and if you're going to keep the belt on him for a year, fine. He's a good champ. But give these guys the ending that they deserve.
And plus, yeah, I don't even want to keep... I'll just keep rehashing what we were talking about before, but for Jon Stewart to hit someone with a chair, and we talked at the top of today's show about how I've always been a Jon Stewart fan. I don't want to see him used like this. How many times have we seen John Cena get hit full whack with a chair by actual wrestlers, and he still comes back? You do the crap where a comedian runs out and hits you with a chair, and that's not actually what put him out. It was then he left the chair for Rollins. Rollins drops Cena on the chair, gets the pin. We have Seth Rollins, a guy walking out with both championships. How do you feel about that? How are they going to split this up?
I don't know. It would be interesting to see what they're going to do with it.
This, if they do, and it's like 5:00 right now on Monday, so in 3 hours, Raw's going to come on. If they do that thing where you have a title for title match, and one guy wins both titles, and then your commissioner, your storyline boss, comes out and says, "Oh, well, that's not allowed, so now we're going to have a tournament."
You have to
then I'm done. We won't have a WrestleMania show next year because I'm done watching wrestling. Because then why did you set up that match to begin with?
Yeah, but
why did you even have the match?
Yeah, but here you go, because you're basically being Alec Baldwin going, if Obama gets elected, I'm moving to Canada. You're backing yourself into a corner where I would say there's a 90% probability that either A, that's exactly what happens, or B, he just jobs out that U.S. title like to Cena again tonight, and it's just a switch back on Raw to the status quo, which then just tells us that these matches are useless, because when something happens within 24 hours, they're going to just move us right back.
They undo it. They just hit the undo button.
It was such a good match. The smart move is Let Rollins, here we go. Let Rollins drop that U.S. title then to Roman Reigns or Dean Ambrose and give one of those guys a title to have while Rollins keeps his world championship belt. That's fine too.
I liked the idea of Cena being the U.S. champ who was elevating a new guy coming in, which was why the Kevin Owens thing was so interesting earlier in the summer. We've said what we had to say about that match, but let's say something positive about it because they worked their asses off and it was a great match. Bad finish. Was it so bad that it ruined the whole match? When I rewatched the match, I was still into it.
It's funny you say that because I didn't know how to feel about it, so that's why this morning I went to all these wrestling sites because I thought I don't follow the product enough. I don't watch Raw. I don't watch SmackDown. I only watch these one-a-month pay-per-views. So I wanted to get more of the pulse of the fans. The pulse of the fans seems to be it did not ruin that match for them at all. And so if that's how people feel, I'm fine with that. I loved this match. So I really, really loved the match and what these two guys delivered. It's unfortunate because I really thought this could have been, something that you could watch years from now and really enjoy. But that ending does leave a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth.
Give us a series with these guys. I'll see 2 more pay-per-views. They seem to do like the 3 pay-per-view series now. Give us 2 more with these guys. I'll totally be on board. Up next, we have another cluster. We have the Diva thing. Bella's and Alicia Fox versus Naomi, Tamina, and Sasha Banks versus Paige, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch. After watching probably the best, I hate to just separate them between female and male, but let's just say it, the best female match I've ever seen was on NXT the night before. To turn it on and see what they're doing, this idea of the Divas Revolution, but then you give us a garbage match with way too many people and way too much chaos, and it's hard to follow, and you don't know who the star is, and you don't know really what the purpose is. This is a step backwards, in my opinion. I want to see Nikki Bella as the champ defend her title or lose the title or whatever against a strong contender, and not all of this kind of, it feels like that Total Divas show that E! Channel has. Like there's just too many people out there. There's too much stuff going on. Is
that the direction they're going? Is she going to end up dropping it to, is it Charlotte? Is Charlotte Flair's daughter?
Charlotte is Flair's daughter, but I don't know what. I don't have any idea where the direction is going because
I think they're grooming her to be a superstar, and I think she's good. She's got the look for sure. I think she's the one who takes that belt from Nikki Bella.
Yeah, let's see it. Give me 3 pay-per-views in a row with them then.
Yeah.
Create a heated rivalry. And not all this stuff where it's like, oh, they're catty girls, so they have to be in clumps and have all their matches against each other.
But this is that age-old argument of the company is trying to get as many people on the card as they can. This is how a lot of these people make their money. And to be on this card gives them a nice paycheck. So this is their way of, instead of getting 2 women on the card, they got 9 women on the card.
It always feels like one of those desperate battle royals. Like you said, like, oh, what are we going to do with this person, this person, this person?
They used to do that with the hardcore title all the time. That was the way to get tons of people involved. Yeah.
But that's how that title worked. That's how the hardcore, because you could pin them. You could pin them anywhere.
But it was the excuse to get 10 different people
and
involved.
And then you have like Jerry
WrestleMania.
Briscoe as a hardcore champion for 2 seconds.
I'm indifferent to the whole thing with the women. I mean, they're good athletes. They've got a lot of talent. This is like a check my phone match. I used to like Paige a lot, but I've soured on her because of how she's come across on the Tough Enough show. You can't. If you see somebody enough on TV, even if they're playing a role, you can't fake genuine nice or genuine I'm an asshole or a pain in the ass. And she really has rubbed me the wrong way on that show. In the Bellas, they don't do anything for me. I don't particularly find the Bellas attractive, to be honest with you. They're not like the days of a Tori Wilson or a Stacy Keibler or Trish Stratus, where I thought these women are genuinely attractive. I don't think that about the Bella twins. So, it's there. It's filler. And, I was kind of shocked that they gave them as much time as they did.
It's interesting how the NXT women, when you bring them up and you put them in the main roster ring with the other women, Paige and the Bellas come off as kind of yesteryear's product because their wrestling style is different. The Bellas aren't they're fine wrestlers, but they're in no way, they can't come close to Sasha Banks or Becky Lynch or I mean, Charlotte is amazing. So they look dated next to this new talent. I don't know. I mean, there's only so much space for a diva match. If they really want to do Stephanie McMahon's Diva Revolution, do they make a strong enough point if it's just a champion versus a challenger, or do you have to throw everybody out there? Is the whole thing just a commercial for the E! Channel? I don't want to see these NXT talents end up as like E! Channel stars. And that's probably what they're going to do with them, because that's a huge cash cow, that show.
They just don't. They don't understand how to do it with the women, so they're just mired in their pattern with the female wrestlers.
They're going to get to a breaking point where either fans don't like to see 12 people, 9 people, whatever, all in the same match at once, or they're going to have to maybe try to spin them off and give them their own show or something. Anyway, Becky Lynch gets the pin though. NXT talent, a young NXT talent, he gets the pin, which was a surprise. And we go into another NXT talent, Kevin Owens versus Cesaro. The night before this match, I saw Kevin Owens. I thought for sure he broke his skull open on a spot he did on the ladder match against Finn Balor. And for him to even come out on the ramp, like, it's surprising. It's crazy. It's a real testament to what all these people put themselves through. But Kevin Owens hit the back of his head on the ladder so hard on that match last night, and to see him come out today, or the next night, I should say, and to perform at the caliber that he did, this guy's impressive. I love his character. He has the I don't care about anything attitude down, and many people have tried to do the Stone Cold I don't care about anything thing, and they did it before Stone Cold, just he did it the best. Kevin Owens probably comes the closest to being that kind of guy, but yet making it his own.
Here's where the haters come down on me. Kevin Owens and Cesaro are really talented. That being said, these guys do nothing for me. I mean, he puts on a good show, but we were kind of jokingly, as you were picking on Dean Ambrose yesterday, we were kind of joking around a little bit about it. I don't see Kevin Owens elevating really high in this company. His look does nothing for me. He doesn't have he'll never be the world champion because he doesn't have that WWE look. So they'd give it the belt to a Ryback before they'd give it to Kevin Owens simply because of the physical look alone. Cesaro, I mean, they're talented. They both did awesome moves. But there was nothing about it that was really sticking. And I know that, like, you're a huge Kevin Owens fan and you're a Mark and you really like all the NXT stuff. And I'm not saying he's not talented. He's got a ton of talent. He's one of the most talented people on this card. But his character, his look, his personality, nothing does anything for me. And I know a lot of people online were commenting that, like, they were surprised that they kind of buried this match in the spot on the card it got buried in. And I don't know. I think part of it just could be the matchup. Like, Cesaro, is he that popular?
Yeah, he's really come around.
Is he really?
He's really come around. Yeah,
he does nothing for me either.
Since Tyson Kidd has been out with injury, Cesaro has been having killer singles matches on TV, and the grassroots support and the TV support and the vocal support in that room in Brooklyn was rabid for both of these guys. See, there is a lot of legitimate, like, the good kind of heat on both of these guys.
The only reason this is coming from someone who watches one WWE product a month. I do watch the retro stuff, but the only new stuff I watch is the pay-per-views. The only reason I even know who Cesaro is when he grabs the guys by the ankle and he does this airplane spin move. And every time I see him do it, I go, oh, that's the guy who does this spin move. And then next month when he's on a pay-per-view, I'll be like, Cesaro, who is this guy again? And then he'll do that move, and I'll go, oh, yeah, that's the guy who does the spin move. Now, Kevin Owens, I recognize, and he had that great 3-match series with Cena, but I mean, I just look at him and I just don't feel like he's got the talent. But we've seen tons of people in the last 3 decades in the WWE with tons of talent who couldn't go anywhere either because they were held back by their look or their clothing or their character or whatever. And that's kind of how I feel about this guy.
If Owens isn't a major player in this company in the next 6 months, it will be simply because of the fault of the McMahons falling on their old you don't have the right look thing and not pushing him properly. Kevin Owens, now NXT is tiny, but Kevin Owens was huge in NXT. Fans want in WWE main roster want Kevin Owens to be somebody. They brought him in with a lot of confidence, having him go over on John Cena, and that blew up. That made was one of those stories that broke through into mainstream media. Like, who is this unknown guy who beat John Cena in a hell of a match? If Owens doesn't become a superstar, it won't be because of anything that he did publicly. I heard he's kind of a jerk behind the scenes, which would be something that definitely would hold him back if he's unprofessional.
Well, sometimes that happens with people if they shotgun them too quickly through the system,
and if he's just that kind of guy,
right?
But when he came out on the NXT show, he comes out on the ramp and he looks right in the camera and says, "The only reason this place is sold out is because of me." You have to be the right kind of person. That's not a great line, but you can say it, and the way he delivers it, he makes it a great line. Kevin Owens has the stuff, and his look, it looks like he's wrestling in a bingo hall, but he's making that his thing. Just like everybody told, like Stone Cold always tells a story, like, we can't merchandise anything for you. You wear black trunks and black boots. And then the Austin 316 shirt becomes the biggest wrestling shirt ever sold. Kevin Owens, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Stone Cold, but he is going to be a superstar. Unless he screws it up behind the scenes, or unless the McMahons just drop the ball.
And to what level? So you're saying in 6 months he's going to be a superstar. So at what level does he need to reach in the next 6 months?
Oh, he could be main eventing.
There's no chance.
He absolutely could be main eventing.
There's no chance. He might main event if they're going to do like a multiple, like fatal four-way or something like that, but he's not going to be main eventing any cards where it's him versus one other guy.
He main evented a show the night before that sold out 15,000 people.
I don't believe it was just simply because of him, though. First of all,
he main evented. What we're saying is
he's not going to
main evented.
That. Well, that's NXT, but he's not main eventing now because Rollins isn't dropping that title anytime soon, and they're not going to do heel versus heel type of a thing. I do think that maybe in the next 6 months you give him like the U.S. title or you can't even really give him the Intercontinental because I don't believe the company's going to go heel champions again.
If they give him the Intercontinental the way it is now, that would be a step down.
Or does he elevate it? You give it to somebody when it's a step down, and you elevate that belt. I mean, Bret Hart did it. Shawn Michaels did it. They got the belt when it wasn't necessarily at the strongest peak at points, and they elevated that belt.
They were also able to do it in a time when there wasn't the U.S. title in the way and an emerging Divas division, so there's only so much time every week to devote to something. The
love.
Fans only have so much energy to spend
I get
on something.
You got a lot of love for the guy.
You don't think I'm making points about, like, if there are too many belts, you can only elevate so many at a time?
No, I'm saying he can take one of those belts, but
no, you don't think I'm making a point though that you can't, like, there's only so much TV time. There's only so much time on the week. If Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels were able to do it, like I said, there was no U.S. title then.
But there was also only one.
There wasn't a women's division.
Yeah, but there wasn't
then.
a SmackDown and a Raw then either.
But no, there's not a SmackDown now. SmackDown is completely irrelevant.
Well, I mean, there's more hours of television available now than there was during that Bret Hart era.
SmackDown is a means to sell advertising. They don't do anything on SmackDown.
But it's not. But there's still more hours of TV now than there were when those guys came up.
But SmackDown is dead air.
All I'm saying is he's not. We're going to sit down here 6 months from now, and he's not going to be to the. And I get it. I can see you're passionate about him, and again, this is not a knock against his talent, but you want him to reach a level in this company that I as a fan of the company for all those years when I rooted for other people to climb the ladder and they couldn't get there. He ain't getting to where you're hoping he's going to get to.
My personal feelings about it are separate from the way I see people responding to him. And that's what I'm talking about when I say he could be a main eventer within 6 months.
He won't be.
That, like I said, if that's the case, it's not because of anything he's doing wrong when he's on camera.
It could be, right. It could be that there have been plenty of, like, the Randy Orton would be the good example of he had everything going for him, and I know he was so difficult behind the scenes back in the day. They wouldn't put belts on him at the time because his ego was already completely out of control. So I agree. If what you told me about Kevin Owens being difficult backstage, that could be a huge negative for sure. But I just, at the company I look at, this company look at Seth Rollins. And you always said about Roman Reigns, this guy cannot be, your number one thing with Roman Reigns was this guy cannot be a main eventer wearing his SWAT gear gimmick. And his look is way better than Kevin Owens.
That was not my number one thing. That was something that I said over and over, but that doesn't make it my number one thing. That seemed to me like a detail that I was very surprised that they overlooked. Like, we're going to send him out dressed like a mercenary for no reason at all.
Well, you said, though, that he was not main event. That wasn't main event attire.
That's true. And because he doesn't do anything with it. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with his character. Kevin Owens has that, I'm a slob and I don't care and I'm going to beat your ass. And the fans are digging that. The way he looks isn't, I mean, he's paunchy and stuff. He doesn't have any physique, but like his clothing is no lamer than Dean Ambrose wearing jeans and boots, motorcycle boots.
Right. Well, I don't think Dean Ambrose is. Unfortunately, he's hot with the fans too. But I don't think if you said to me in 6 months will Dean Ambrose be main eventing, he had his shot. He had the one pay-per-view or whatever. I don't think he's going to get to that caliber either. I think he needs an Intercontinental belt or a U.S. belt to groom him a little bit through, and I think Kevin Owens does too. I don't think he's not going to just leapfrog coming from NXT. He's not leapfrogging all the needed steps to get to where he's going to get to by his talent alone. And he's got the talent, but he's got too many other things working against him. He's not getting there that quickly.
Do you think Dean Ambrose against Kevin Owens could main event a monthly pay-per-view?
Nope. And I'm
not one of the four corners, one of the other 8.
Nope. And I'm a huge Dean Ambrose fan. I'm 100%. That's not something that's going to sell.
The fans are crazy over for both of these guys.
That's what you say,
and that
you
won't
hear
sell.
them in the arena. But I'm telling you, it's not going to happen.
You see the response online. You see, look at Twitter, look at everything.
The response online for a lot of the Kevin Owens and Cesaro stuff was everyone was like, boy, they really got mired in a lousy spot. And that to me is, well, why did that happen? Who doesn't have faith in something? Because if they were 100% behind these guys, they wouldn't have got mired in the spot that they got put. This is the death spot. That spot right before the main event is where matches usually go. This is where Owen Hart fought Skinner back in the day.
Kevin Owens could totally main event in 6 months.
He's got the talent. He's just not going to. Do you know how many years I was a Shawn Michaels fan, and that guy had more talent than everyone in the company at a point when the company didn't have a lot of talent, and he still could never break through to that next level. And he had the look, the character, the in-ring ethic. He had everything going for him, and he probably even had more of that backstage politicking, that clicking going on, and he couldn't get it done. This guy's not going to get it done. Trust me, a year from now, Kevin Owens is still not main eventing any pay-per-views unless it's like a 4-man, and they might throw him into, say, an elimination chamber main event. That I could see because he's got that talent to get him through these matches.
Yeah, but that doesn't count.
Well, right.
Because there's always some filler people.
But I don't want you coming back going, see, he did main event.
No, that doesn't count. I don't count that.
As a 2-name main event, it ain't happening. And I'll base part of my safety on the fact that Rollins is not dropping this belt. He's not dropping that belt, and as long as Rollins has it, Owens ain't fighting Rollins for the championship.
No, that is a factor. Is how long are they going to let the Seth Rollins run go? I'm happy that they're going with it for as long as they have, because typically the McMahons don't stay with heel world champions. That was more of, Vince would see that as more of like an old NWA thing, like more of a Jim Crockett thing to have your heel world champ,
right? Where
he would like to have his superhero world champs. So I'm surprised they've let Rollins actually hold it for 6 months.
Now I will say this, I will add the addendum, which is if something happens, either Rollins gets injured or through whatever means go on, let's say in 2 months John Cena gets the title again, like they decide we're going to give him another shot at the belt. Then I could see them saying, well, we want Kevin Owens to come up and fight John Cena because we've already seen the matches these two men can deliver. Owens ain't walking away with any belt anytime soon. He's not. If they put another lower tier belt on the guy, I think he can elevate those belts fine.
We'll see. This guy's money. He's already proven that he's money. He proved it in Orlando that he's money.
this guy's money, this guy's huge, everyone loves him. And my response is, well, then why did the company put him where they put him, in the spot where this is the spot where fans go to buy merchandise because they know there's one more match left and they want to be there for the Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. So if the company does that, they're seeing something that you are not seeing. And you're seeing all the love and all the excitement and how everyone loves this guy. And I'm telling you, I could write you 50 names right now from the last 30 years where the fans are like, oh my God. And that wrestler never went anywhere.
I'm not saying the company made the best decision, or the company always makes the best decisions. And that's what the commentators that you're talking about, that's what they're saying. Like, why would they make this decision and put Kevin Owens and Cesaro in the dead zone when they don't belong in the dead zone? It must be because of a punishment.
But I'm almost wondering, you could, and I would support the argument of, you see, according to you, everyone is over, but I don't see it that way. So maybe Cesaro's not as over as you think he is, and they just feel like if Kevin Owens was fighting John Cena, they're not in that spot on the card. So maybe it's the Cesaro end of it that's pulling it down a little bit too. Maybe they needed to let him rest an extra 2 hours after the show he put on the night before in NXT.
well, that could be, but like, and I don't watch Raw every week, but I watch it at least 3 times a month, and I don't even watch the whole show. But you see the evolution of both of these guys and how they're catching on and how they're picking up more and more steam as it goes and as it goes and as it goes. And my fear is that it's going to be one of those things where another one of those times where the fans are completely on board with the guy and then they just drop him from some stupid reason.
Right, because the next Batista or Roman Reigns is the guy they're going to want to push.
Exactly.
And I mean,
or Ryback.
Right, exactly. I mean, the company is still about those things, and their world champion has to have a look. And the look is not the Kevin Owens look. All right, so that brings us to our main event. And I'll be honest, I guess I should have seen it because all the advertising showed these two, but I still thought that the main event should have been our title match, especially because of the match that Cena and Rollins really did put on. So I was very nervous to see that our main event was going to be an Undertaker, Brock Lesnar main event. How do you feel about it?
I have that old-fashioned thing where I like the world title to be the main event. I totally agree with you there. I like that. At the same time, I mean, Undertaker is the attraction who they pay to come out twice a year, these days to do something that's his image, and then Lesnar is the champ who they only get to work twice a year. and this is where it works for them right now.
They delivered a far better match than A, I was expecting, and B, that they had any right to pull off. It was a very good match.
Undertaker's in much better shape than he was at Mania.
It was very good. Now, that being said, you did comment to me that after the match, it looked like whether he was playing for the crowd or not, it looked like still some injuries or he was a little bit off as he was leaving the arena.
Right before I left my house, I read a headline that said that he fell over while walking up the ramp, or when he got up to the top of the whatever they call the platform at the top of the ramp, and he fell. And I don't know, maybe they'll address it tonight on Raw.
These are big guys. So immediately when they're doing these moves or they're picking each other up and doing these different moves, I mean, it's, Undertaker had awesome matches against Shawn Michaels, but to tombstone or chokeslam Shawn Michaels doesn't tax your body to the level it does to tombstone Brock Lesnar. I'm amazed. I mean, we were joking about how long has it been, and I mean, when somebody had commented when the Undertaker debuted, and I was thinking, like, I wasn't even in the adult world then. I was still in college at that time. I am amazed.
It was 1990, right?
Yeah, I'm amazed at the career this guy has had at the level that he's had it. I was thoroughly entertained, and we would, when the match started, I know some people at your house were joking, like, are they going to be able to get 10 minutes, 15 minutes? I looked at my watch at one point. They were over 20 for sure.
The match starts off, the way it starts, you feel like it's going to be a crazy short match because right away he does the rope walk. And then they do the F5 tease, and then they do the chokeslam tease. So they both kind of tease their finishers, and it's very well booked like that. So then it's compelling. I love when matches are booked like this, and it can only be done with two people who are like monsters, where there's at no point in the match does a single guy get the upper hand. It's seesaw the whole time. There's not a point where Brock Lesnar is just killing the Undertaker for 8 straight minutes.
Right.
which is usually like a Brock Lesnar match, or 10 years ago an Undertaker match, where a person just has to sell for them for so long, and then they make their comeback, and then it goes back and forth. They're toe-to-toe with each other through the whole duration of the match.
They even have that awesome spot where after the Undertaker has done a bunch of damage to Lesnar, and Lesnar legitimately got cut and he was bleeding, where Lesnar sits up and he's laughing at, like, it's that bully mentality of
his
like
Suplex City laugh.
Yeah, it's like, that's the best you got. And when the Undertaker sits up and he mocks that too,
they do the dual laugh mock.
That is perfect.
That was all over Twitter today.
Oh, was it?
So people made memes of that. That was all over Twitter.
That was a great spot. And I remember the people in your house, everyone like cracked up. I was like, that's a great spot. But you're right. There was no one guy beating down the other guy. It was a seesaw battle back and forth. And I mean, you look at Brock Lesnar. I mean, the guy is a specimen. At the Undertaker's age and with the years and the mileage he's got, for him to go at that pace, that's impressive. I mean, just two guys. It'd be different if, let's say, this was a fatal four-way where you've got four guys where Undertaker can roll out of the ring and take the Roman Reigns nap for 10 minutes and
the
get
Reigns
the rest.
Nap,
But I mean, these guys, they were going. This was not a match that I was bored with at all. The pacing of this match was outstanding.
I'm typically not an Undertaker fan. I don't dislike the Undertaker, but he's not kind of my style. This man, I was completely on board. It's fantastic, and every bit of the psychology. I mean, you have two guys who are, at this point, you can say Brock Lesnar is a veteran, and then you have Taker, who's like the master of ring psychology in every match he's ever done. They're both they brought the absolute best they possibly could, given their their age.
Absolutely. Then we get to the end. Now, this is a problem for me on a couple of levels. Again, so we started off the show here talking about how the SummerSlam is the second most popular pay-per-view of the year. Usually you want to end with everyone having a good taste in their mouth, having spent their time, their money for a 4-hour event. But we're not going to get a victory that we want, and we're not even going to get a clean victory. We're going to get another sloppy victory, and there's a couple of reasons for it, but it's one that, again, you had a solid match, and the ending is underwhelming. So now they've done this. They've robbed us twice on one card.
So what happens? Brock Lesnar has Undertaker in some kind of a cradle position.
Like a Kimura, wasn't it, with the arm being bent back?
Yes, and the bell rings. And then the referee says, "Why did you ring the bell? I didn't stop the match. Why did you ring the bell?" It's very confusing. And it's one thing, like, we hate ref bumps, and we spent a lot of time today talking about how much we hate them, but that's not confusing. It's frustrating. It's aggravating, but it's not like, wait, did someone screw up? This changes the whole energy, and you could feel it because we watched it in a crowded room together.
Yes.
It was like, wait a minute, what happened? And it's not the good kind of confusion. It's not. We were even talking about, like, did someone sneak over and grab the hammer and ring the bell? Like, we were wondering, like, what goes on. And so they let the match continue, and then Undertaker puts what's he call his chokehold, his sleeper hold. He's one of those.
He's got him in the triangle choke.
The triangle choke, yeah. So he wraps Lesnar into that, and then the ref gives the match to Undertaker.
Well, there's the nice touch though where Lesnar flips off the Undertaker, like, I'm going out, but I'm going out still telling you off.
Right. Yeah, that is. I mean, people used to talk about, like, Brock Lesnar not having the mic skills and stuff. He doesn't need them because he's just so good at being a dick.
His character comes off well. There are so many problems with this. At times the WWE, they want to try and convince the fans that we're a company, like the performers, that this is a real company. But I'll tell you, if this was a real company, the referee and the ring bell timekeeper, they'd be fired the next day. I mean, because this is really presented like a screw up. And if you are, we couldn't really hear the commentating, so we were all a little confused. I don't know how well the commentators played it off, but I mean, everyone in that arena, the angle they've chosen to go with, no one in the arena could understand that angle because no one's going to have that view of the Undertaker tapping. So they're all confused. When that bell rings and the way the ref runs over and kind of does that, you really feel like, somebody just, like, they missed their beat. They like the ring bell person was supposed to do this, but not for another 2 minutes. Like they jumped the gun. It just felt wrong.
It breaks precedent. The bell never rings until the official calls the match. So you spend your whole hour, several hours in a row, trying to, but really suspending your disbelief. But then something like that happens, and it just reminds you of like, oh, fake sport.
Right, I know,
and I hate that. Like
we made the joke that like it would be awesome if the camera cut to the bell ringer and it was like one of the druids.
That's what we were saying. Like maybe it was someone else who rang the bell. Like because nothing else made sense.
What would have been funny? I was thinking about this on the drive home. If they had, let's just say, average Joe white guy wearing a suit as our bell ringer, but maybe he's like, a skilled enough wrestler to take a lot of bumps. What would be funny is if, like, say tonight on Raw, they put that guy in the ring with Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar like can suplex City the shit out of him, and the guy could take the beating. But I'm sure it was.
And then
like,
Undertaker chokeslams him a bunch of times because he's just as mad.
Exactly. Like you could play up that angle.
Undertaker throws him in a coffin.
But they never really showed us who the bell ringer was. Paul Heyman runs over and he rings the bell and he kind of does that, no, this isn't going to be how it is. The only thing that could really save the momentum in the match at that point is if you really had like your ring announcer go, ladies and gentlemen, this match must continue.
Which is what we're hoping for, right? Like that's what we're hoping for because we have seen like kind of controversial matches as a letdown and then your energy comes right back with even more adrenaline because like, oh, okay, we're going to keep going. We're going to actually get a finish here. I mean, we got a finish. It was far from a clean finish. They're going for the controversial finish. Why do you think?
I don't know. It's just like we talked about. If Lesnar loses, it doesn't hurt him at all. If the Undertaker loses, it doesn't hurt him at all. Frankly, if Lesnar loses, you're set up perfectly for a rubber match at some point down the road. This is my problem.
At a very specific points down the road. At a place whose location and date has already been chosen and sold out.
Here's the thing.
In Dallas.
The company can be thrilled that they sold out this arena 3 days in a row. And maybe when SummerSlam hits, it's your second biggest pay-per-view of the year, you're excited because your subscribers on the WWE Network have all purchased it. Everyone wants to see SummerSlam. But when it ends and it leaves bad tastes in your mouth, now the month of September, everything can run the risk of dropping off because people go, if this is their second biggest event of the year and that's how they treat the two matches that I'm most excited for, why do I want to pay September, October, November, December?
Yeah, I can cancel and wait till the Royal Rumble.
If you want, I'm not saying they can't try something different, but try it at a lesser pay-per-view when you don't ruin. I mean, again, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the SummerSlam where we spent the entire summer on the Lex Express as Lex Luger was building up the momentum to fight Yokozuna and get the title. And everyone expected Luger's going to win the belt. He's going to win the belt. He doesn't win the match cleanly. He wins by DQ. And they break out all the balloons and there's the big celebration. And everyone's like, no, he didn't beat Yokozuna. He didn't get the championship. So we've spent the whole summer for lost cause. And then he never recovered from that. I mean, he never got to that status again. But it's like, don't treat your WrestleManias and your SummerSlams as your testing grounds. Save that for a different point in the year.
Great match. Another great match spoiled by a bad finish. When everybody was packing up last night, the attitude was really sour. And for the most part, this is very anecdotal because it's based on our small sample group of us
11 people.
Us and 9 other people. But that is what you just described is the scenario that happens. Like my whole day was built around SummerSlam, preparing for it, having people over, the whole thing, blah, 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 which means everybody else's day was planned about it because you don't make any other evening plans because you got to go to Don's house to watch this dumb wrestling show with them. So everybody makes a sacrifice to watch the show, and then you give us a finish like that, and it psychologically, it makes us forget how great that match was. And the fact that there were 2 of those on the same night makes it more infuriating. And there was a double count out earlier on a match too, which is flashbacks of just bad matches.
It would at my peak of being a WWE, WWF fan, when I would wear the T-shirts and the merchandise, there were two things that I dreaded. I dreaded trying to bring in new fans, my friends, into the fold, people who didn't like wrestling, but telling them, like, you've got to see this. Like, I remember when, like, Mick Foley goes off to Hell in the Cell and goes through it, convincing some of my friends who hated wrestling, I'm like, you have to see this. This is absolutely incredible. So then I show it to them, and then they spend the next 2 weeks watching Raw, and, you know, you get the really bad angles of, like, Stone Cold in the coroner's office about to be embalmed, and Stephanie being kidnapped by the Undertaker in the limo, and it's like
popular punching bag angles between the two of us.
It's just like, it becomes embarrassing then. I'm sorry, I'm the one who was trying to turn you on to this product. That's how I would have felt if I had been bringing newbies over to my house. Like, trust me, it's WrestleMania or it's SummerSlam. This is a quote unquote safe environment. We're going to have a thrilling show. But then they took the two biggest matches and they tried to get too clever with both endings.
The first time I experienced something like that, did you ever see the Wrestling Classic?
I've never saw it, but I know what it is.
That was on the shelf at our local video. We grew up in the same small town. In our local video store, this long closed video image, the Wrestling Classic. It was in the old Coliseum video, the clamshell case. I rented the Wrestling Classic all the time, and it was, I believe, 1985. I think it was between WrestleMania 1 and 2. I don't remember the month. I remember it was at the Rosemont Horizon in Chicago, because they would always go to the Rosemont Horizon, and Chicago is a big territory for them. It's a one-night tournament. It's a bracket tournament, and almost everybody in the tournament is like really solid workers. It's not probably not the first Ricky Steamboat Randy Savage match, but there's a Ricky Steamboat Randy Savage match that's really, really good, as expected. So I'm watching the Wrestling Classic, and my dad, who didn't like wrestling, is always looked down on it because he's like a sports fan, like a real diehard, particularly from his era. So baseball and basketball could never get on board with the Lions, but he liked the sports that he played well, and he's just sort of from that thing, like very anti-wrestling. But I'm watching the Wrestling Classic, and it's, for its era, I don't know how it's aged, but for its era, it's a really good show. So my dad sits and he's watching it with me, and he's asking me about who the guys are in the movie, and he's like, oh, so you can't, it's the same kind of things we were talking about with some of the people last night, like, oh, so why can't they touch the rope when they're getting pinned? Like, right. It has to be in the middle of the ring, and I'm explaining little things to him like that. Now, there's a match on this show where Nikolai Volkov against Dynamite Kid. I hope, since we're recording this. I'm pretty sure it's Nikolai Volkov against Dynamite Kid. Volkov does his Russian national anthem thing. As he's handing the microphone away, Dynamite Kid is climbing up on the top turnbuckle, drop kicks him from the top turnbuckle. Volkov is out. 1, 2, 3. Match never even starts, and the match is over. And then my dad says, I don't like wrestling. And he gets up and walks away. Like, yeah, exactly. You should always avoid that kind of booking, because he was on board. And then it broke the reality of, because the bell didn't even ring and Kid hit him, something like that. Like, if they just rang the bell first, then it would be like, oh, okay, well, that was fair. But when you do things like that, when you break the reality of it and create the wrong kind of confusion, you lose people, and then it does erase what you enjoyed about it just right before that event happened.
I don't remember if it was a Survivor Series or a Royal Rumble or a King of the Ring, but I remember one of the, back in the era of, like, there's only 4 or 5 major pay-per-views a year, my father and my brother and I, we rented one. My dad paid the money. We rented one because whatever storylines are going on at the time, you know, we were all into. And this was probably like the Bret Hart Vader era of the WWF. And so we rent this pay-per-view expecting it to wrap up some of the storylines, and then whatever happened, all I remember was things don't end cleanly, and then they basically go, if you want to see, because of this, we've got our next show, it's going to be Tuesday in Texas, and we're going to have a rematch with all these people to settle the score. And I remember my dad going, okay, I just paid like $50 for this pay-per-view on Sunday, and all this is a setup so I can pay another $50 2 days from now to see the next match. No, I'm out, type of a thing.
Yeah, that's one of those things where that's just a naked money grab. Like, they're just taking advantage of your loyalty as a fan. This Tuesday in Texas event, like, I wasn't watching wrestling at the time, but that's something that people always refer to as, like, man, that was really sleazy. Like,
it was a horrible,
really sleazy move by the company.
And I get it. It's a company, and you want to make money. And I'm not saying you can't make money. What I'm saying is, don't get overly creative with your second biggest pay-per-view of the year. And if you're going to try that, if you really want to go Undertaker taps and there's the Ring of the Bell confusion, then your Rollins and Cena match has to end clean. Or if you're going to have Jon Stewart come in, then your Undertaker Lesnar match has to end cleanly. You need one of them to be a stable thing so that the people can go, but thank God we had that one match that lived up to all of my expectation. Because I'll be honest with you, I could not, if I wanted to sit somebody down and go, I want to show you how awesome Seth Rollins and John Cena is, watch this match, I can't show them that match because it ends so poorly.
You got to turn it off. like I'm going to stop this right now, but trust me, what you've seen up to this point is really good, right? You're liking this?
Exactly. It's too bad. I feel bad for the talent, and I feel bad because how many more matches of this caliber as The Undertaker got left in him, and this one really got away from him because of the booking, and it's unfortunate.
Great show overall, though. I mean, some bad booking aside, and it's legitimately bad booking on the two matches that I was the most interested in seeing. Leading up to the show, every match on this card had a backstory, which is a plus, because often if they just need to fill in slots, they'll just kind of throw some people out there. There was a story going into this.
We've had almost an hour more to talk about SummerSlam than we did WrestleMania. So I do feel like this was a better pay-per-view. There was a better quality of matches. It was a longer pay-per-view. It was set up in a more comfortable environment that I like to see with my major pay-per-views than WrestleMania was when it was in that outdoor venue. I do think that this was a step up. So if I'm grading it, I'm going to say, this year's WrestleMania was maybe a B-. I would still probably give SummerSlam somewhere between a B+ and an A-. It was a little long, but I wanted to give it that solid A or an A+, and if one of those two matches had ended cleanly, I'd give it that really high recommend rating.
When you came over before we started watching it, I was trying to explain to you, and I don't really know how to articulate it, but this idea that I don't really remember how excited I was for WrestleMania, because that was like, it's a feeling. Like, I don't remember like the actual emotions. I was excited for it, but I was telling you, for SummerSlam, I think I'm feeling more excited than I was for Mania, and maybe it's because I've been watching it since like December, so there's been more time, and I have more of my personal time invested, and because I've been watching NXT, so I'm more invested in Peep and a few of the other guys who were in it, like Neville and Kevin Owens, so I have more of a personal investment into watching this. But I had really high expectations for this show, and if it hadn't been for those bad finishes, it would have been absolutely stellar. If it had, it would have been like in everything that led up to it, and I'll be unfair, and for extra credit, I'll include the NXT show the night before because it's all part of that like weekend SummerSlam experience. It would have been great, and believe me, if the NXT show would have sucked, I would have included that too as an anchor. I would say A- for this show, B+ for Mania, because I had a really good time watching Mania, but.
We're not too far off then. We're right close in the same. But I
put it slightly one notch above.
Right, but we both feel like it was still a step up from Mania. You know what? Because
not a big step up. You got to be careful, because when you say something like that, people say like, "What? You think Mania sucked?" Like, no, I'm just saying this is slightly better.
It was an improvement. The quality of the venue, the quality of the matches, the pairing for their matches, and this one didn't.
The storylines behind the matches,
and this
were
one
all
did
really
not
solid.
have that like momentum-killing Rock segment for 15 minutes with Ronda Rousey and Triple H. They did not have that moment where somebody came out and did mic service for an unbearably godly amount of time.
No, the closest they came was Jon Stewart and Paul Heyman, and that was really good because you have two like really brilliant talkers from the same part of the country. So there's just that thing about guys like New York, New Jersey guys kind of doing a verbal sparring,
and it was kept.
And it was
under
tight.
Control.
It was tight because you also have two guys who know how to do TV.
Yep, that's true. So anyways, all right, I want to thank everybody for tuning in for what turned out to be our second WWE episode of the year. If you want to learn more about our podcast, you can check us out at our website, www.donandhisamazingfriend.com, where you can see and listen to several of our other episodes where we review movies of both present day and the past.
You can follow us on Twitter at SecretDuck922. Please do that. Feel free to drop any comments, suggestions, arguments, whatever you want to say about the show. We'd love to hear from you.
Don and I have been practicing our sign-off here for quite some time. We've got a special sign-off for the episode. So until next time...
What? We didn't do the finish yet.
What happened?
Who rang the... I didn't say ring the bell. Who rang the bell? We didn't do the finish yet.
Who was that? No.
Ladies and gentlemen, this show will go on for 15 more minutes.
That's right. SummerSlam is going to be epic. 4 hours, 9 matches, and you can see it all live only on the WWE Network.